Hey everyone, so Joshua Bennell here today. I just wanted to talk about why unconventional thoughts and abnormal people are actually the driving force of the future, whether that be in business, design, or even just in your day-to-day life. I was actually inspired to make this video after listening to the book on Audible, 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. And in this book, the main premise is in the form of a question, which is, what simple truth that most people accept do you disagree with? By definition, anybody that has achieved something that most have not, or have created a large amount of success that people look up to, are literally unconventional, because if they were conventional and like the rest, they wouldn't stand out. What is considered a normal or good idea today will likely only be a memory in the future, and those that bask in the glory and comfort of today will be sure to not be the creators of tomorrow. This may sound straightforward or obvious, but even some of the smartest people get caught in this trap. A great example of this in full circle is the rise and fall of Blockbuster. At its peak in the late 90s, Blockbuster had over 9,000 stores alone in the US, with millions and millions of customers. But in 2010, they actually filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy with, I think, $800 million in debt. So what the heck happened? Initially, what set them apart from other video stores alike was this new innovative technology that they came up with that allowed them to have 10,000 VHSs on stock instead of most video movie rental places that could only carry about 100 movies or so. They were adding over a new store every single day, 1 or 2 stores a day, and within 3 years of them starting their first store, they became the largest video chain in the United States. While Blockbuster and its boss, John Antioco, continued to focus on building more brick-and-mortar stores, technology in the space continued to rise. In 1997, Reed Hastings came up with Netflix, which completely reimagined the way that people interacted with renting videos. And the reason why he even came up with this idea was because he was just not okay with the fact that he had a $40 late fee on, I think the movie was Apollo 13, and he didn't want to tell his wife. So he knew that there had to be a better way of renting movies than the current form of going into a brick and mortar store and renting a movie and then dealing with late fees if you're not able to get back to the store on time. Not sure if you know, but Netflix started off as actually a video mail rental service, so they would send you DVDs every month, and they really focused in on not having to worry about your late fees and not having to go into some brick and mortar store when you're busy and just trying to enjoy a movie. While Blockbuster was lost in the ego and public perception of success, other companies continued to innovate in the space. In the early 2000s, Blockbuster teamed up with Enron to create their first video-on-demand platform that was actually validated and people seemed to enjoy a lot. But after the CEO, which I forget the name of now, was super focused on continuing to scale his brick and mortar stores, they didn't have time to focus on the video on demand platform, and the whole idea ended up getting scratched. They were even offered by Netflix to buy the company for $50 million. They were offered to buy Netflix for $50 million, and they turned down the offer and completely turned their shoulder on Netflix because they believed that they were unstoppable, and there was no way that a small $50 million company like Netflix could become a competitor of the big, successful Blockbuster. As you all now know, Blockbuster is 100% irrelevant, and the whole market is completely predicated around watching whatever you want, whenever you want, wherever you want to. So what does this have to do with unconventional thinking and building the future? The things that seem extremely obvious to us now were very far from obvious in the past. And Netflix had to make some very ambitious, difficult decisions that few people were able to understand or even comprehend. In only 20 years, Netflix has been able to turn into, which is now a $100 billion company, through making decisions that seem very obvious to us now. They started off renting DVDs through the mail using an internet-based subscription, but their actual end goal was to decentralize entertainment and take away the monopolistic grip that big cable had on the entire market of premium TV. There were huge cracks in the foundation that Blockbuster ignored that Netflix did not. And these cracks in the foundation of what we believe is true today exist everywhere in our daily life. And if you're able to identify these cracks, this is actually a huge opportunity for growth and disruption. So let's go through some of the underlying principles here so we can use Blockbuster's mistakes to our education and actually stay ahead of the curve instead of behind it. And for each one of these points, I could realistically talk about for hours on end. So keep in mind that these will be very summarized to be consumable. So the first point is, when everyone goes left, feel comfortable going right. Whether you're a teenager thinking that it isn't a good idea to hit that jewel, or you're a billion-dollar company noticing signs of disruption, you need to feel extremely comfortable taking actions that are contrary to what everybody else says is right and what everybody else is doing. I've always been pretty intrigued by the psychology behind the world's most impactful and successful people. And for these people to experience abnormal results and to achieve unheard of or things that haven't been done before, they need to do things in their life that are completely abnormal or different than everyone else is doing. Because if they were doing everything that everybody else was doing, they would just be everybody else. For Netflix, it was ditching brick and mortar to compete with other huge competitors' distribution. But if you're a designer, it could be outsourcing some of your client work so you have more time to create educational content. Or it could be trying out a different pricing model to make money in a way that other people aren't thinking. Or it could be a variety of different things, or trying a niche that's oversaturated and trying to serve that niche in a different way with a slightly altered offer. There will always be the possibility that you're wrong about your decisions and ideas, but honestly, at the end of the day, you need to be able to trust your hunches and intuitions so that you can actually follow the things that make sense in your life. So, secondly, use first principle based reasoning whenever trying to solve a problem or come up with something new. I first heard about this idea and concept from an interview of Elon Musk, where he explains the thought process of scientists and physicists alike. The way first principle based reasoning works is essentially breaking things down to their fundamental truths and then reasoning up from there. And this is opposed to the common analogy-based reasoning that is essentially monkey see, monkey do. One example of analogy-based reasoning in a social scenario would be, let's say there's a kid at school and everybody is making fun of him. Because there are other people making fun of him, you may feel like, even though you are somebody that typically wouldn't just randomly make fun of somebody, you are because it feels socially acceptable, because you validated your decision based off of the fact that somebody else has done it. But if you were alone and it was just you and that person, it's likely that the situation would turn out very differently and you wouldn't say the things that you would say, or vice versa. Another common example of this in marketing would be if you're a designer or you own a marketing agency and you're trying to sell somebody on a website because their website doesn't look very good, it's kind of slow, and you sell websites. But in reality, maybe it is a good idea to sell them a website, but maybe the business's true problem lies somewhere else. If they've got extremely low sales and they've got little cash flow and no validated marketing channels, maybe it makes sense for them to do lead generation prior to you building them some fancy, expensive website to convert more users, because if there's no users coming to the website, then the website isn't worth the money, even no matter how good you make it. The reason why, as humans, we commonly default to the analogy-based reasoning is because if we had to think and process every single situation that we did, like me saying these words or moving my lips or swaying side to side, if I had to think about every little thing, I wouldn't be able to mentally make it throughout the day. It would be virtually impossible to think about every single thing that you have to do. People are innately lazy and always trying to subconsciously make things easier. And this is honestly really good for day-to-day life. But when it comes to solving problems or trying to find the truth of a situation or come up with a new idea, it's quite bad. And it makes significantly more sense to use first principle based reasoning. Finally, last but not least, when it comes to harnessing unconventional thoughts and building the future and building your success, ego is your enemy. We all experience it, we all get offended, and we all feel like we have to prove something to this external world we live in. But luckily for us, we can practice on a day-to-day basis reducing our ego so that we can have more innovative, unconventional thoughts. The big problem with ego is when you have an emotional attachment to anything, it inhibits your ability to logically process the situation and hear the truth in the situation. If you feel that you have to prove something to someone else or keep a certain image for the people around you, you're actually creating your own roadblocks, and this inhibits you from being able to think about the bigger picture and the ideas that actually get you closer to your goals. So yeah, those are my 3 points towards learning from the mistakes that Blockbuster made, learning the good things that Netflix did, and how we can actually harness these ideas for our own success and the success of the future. So to quickly recap my 3 points, the first one was, when everyone goes left, feel comfortable going right. Second, when trying to come up with something new or solve a problem, use first principle based reasoning. And third, your ego is your enemy. So with that being said, if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to like it or subscribe to my channel, and I guess I'll see you next week. Peace.